Welcome back to another episode of the Brawn Body Health and Fitness Podcast. Joining me again today is Micaela Abbatine. Micaela is no stranger to the podcast. And to close out the 2023 or season 4 of the podcast, Micaela and I are going to be discussing what you can do to make sure you achieve any and all goals and resolutions that you set for the new year. The new year is a time that a lot of people like to set goals and resolutions, but unfortunately, many do not succeed. Today, we talk about all these different strategies to make sure that you are successful in your endeavors. Enjoy. Micaela, welcome back to the podcast. I can't remember if this is time number 3 or 4 or 5, but you've been a very frequent guest and you're someone that I always look forward to talking to. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, I'm pumped to be back on. And I think it's actually the 4th time. So I don't know if you've had any other guests on for 4 times. If you have, great. If not, it'll make me feel a little bit special. But yeah, really excited to talk about this topic today.
Yeah, definitely. You're certainly a very special and impactful individual. And I always love and look forward to the things that you're doing. But maybe there's someone out there who doesn't know you quite as well as I do, or maybe they haven't, heard of you or seen you on Instagram. Would you mind filling them in a little bit about who you are and all the amazing things that you do day in and day out?
Sure. Yeah. So for anyone that is not familiar with kind of me and my background, my name is Micaela Abbatine. I think I've known Dan for probably about a year now. We've connected over social media. We kind of both are well versed in the fitness space. I think that's what we first kind of bonded over. So I started out as an athlete growing up, played softball, played Division I softball started out at the University of North Carolina, played there, then transferred to the University of Maryland, and ended up finishing up my career at Providence College. After my softball career ended, started my career in Major League Baseball. So right now I work for the Pittsburgh Pirates based in the front office in Pittsburgh, working in all things amateur scouting. So everything involved in the high school and college baseball, all forms of information, scouting, everything we need to draft players and bring them up into our system. And one day those players will be playing on our major league field at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. So softball player working in baseball, but cool thing about me is I super passionate about fitness. And besides fitness, kind of the training and nutrition part, I've really taken a love to the whole mindset piece. That's kind of what we're here to talk about today, because really with anything in fitness, if you want to make any lifestyle change, that's all going to start in between the ears, right? Everything comes down to mindset and being able to develop habits. So with kind of the new year rolling around, that's what Dan brought me on to talk about. And I'm super pumped to kind of dive into this topic today.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I'm, on that point, I'm still waiting for your podcast. I think what did you call it? Mindset with Micaela. I'm still waiting for that to come out. But hey, 2024, that could be your year.
Yeah,
But,
who
the new
knows?
year is
Maybe.
the new year is certainly right around the corner. And I think this is a time a lot of people like to look at things like a fresh start, or they set goals for themselves. And a lot of those goals tend to be circled around health and fitness and so on that way. But I think the holidays can be a difficult time to try and, set goals and start fresh and start anew, so to speak, as it relates to your health and fitness and overall mindset, just because of what we typically associate the holidays with, right? For some people that might be stress, or seeing that certain family member that maybe you don't get along with well. I feel like everyone has one of them. Or maybe it's just like, the super late nights and the travel and all these other things. I feel like the holidays can certainly be a challenging time for people trying to start new. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think as far as, the holidays from Thanksgiving to New Year's, it can be an overwhelming and stressful time for many. You're getting thrown out of your regular routines, the traveling, the parties, the food, the drinks. And for a lot of people, there's financial strain with our expenses tending to go up during this time with buying gifts for everyone. But I think it's easy to get wrapped up and just want to fast forward into the new year. But I think that it's also a great time for gratitude, showing yourself grace and being able to connect with your family and friends, right? We have all our families are spread across the country. Everyone's at school, whether it's college or still in kind of high school, and kind of all involved in our different jobs. So kind of to flip that on its head, I think it's also a great time to reconnect with family and friends, to catch up and enjoy each other's company, and, engage in connection off the screens. So as far as, connection, I think it's also a good time where we can show ourselves a little bit more grace when it comes to the health and fitness part. Building a healthy lifestyle that you actually enjoy and can sustain involves allowing yourself to pull back on the reins of discipline and consistency. And sometimes that's a little bit hard for type A people like me and Dan. And so probably a lot of you that are going to be listening to this, but it's especially with these holidays, you're going to have to show yourself a little bit grace throughout the grind that we are normally accustomed to, where the holidays, most of the time it's going to be about maintaining like a certain baseline level of health, making the best possible choices that we can to keep our energy up, making our nutrition choices as good as they can be, but still being able to enjoy all the yummy holiday food, and just being able to show up kind of daily in our tasks in a more positive mood. So I think it's important to kind of lean into the season of slowness that sometimes the holiday brings with the health and fitness part, but you're not really needed to show up every day. And it's easy to want to beat yourself up, but I think it's important to kind of have these periods where you're a little bit more slow. And then I think the last part I just wanted to touch on is the gratitude part, right? It's easy to really get stressed this time of year and want to speed things up, kind of like you said. But I think, especially with the new year rolling around and Thanksgiving that just wrapped up not too long ago, this time of year presents an opportunity for us to reflect on what we're grateful for and why. The opportunities, experiences, moments, people in our life, our health, the gifts that we'll be receiving and giving to others. Because by expressing gratitude and taking note of all the beauty in what we currently have, we're going to be allowed to put energy and creating moving forward kind of into this new year. So yes, it's a stressful time, but instead of being overwhelmed with the busyness, we can also focus instead on being overwhelmed with love, leading into balance and practicing gratitude, especially we get ready for the fresh start that this new year does bring, which I think it's wonderful to take advantage of this motivation that we all feel that accompanies this fresh start of the new year. But I think the issue for most people is that, when mid-January rolls around, that motivation wears off. So I think what we're going to be kind of talking about today is those who are successful with setting, working towards, and ultimately achieving their resolutions are the ones who stick around when this fresh start motivation of the new year wears off.
I think you bring up so many amazing points. And first, kind of rethinking how we view the holidays and the end of the year and kind of reframing our mindset around those. I think a while ago you made a post about, having to do something versus getting to do something. And I think the holidays are certainly a great time to put that into practice, right? Like, oh, I have to travel, I have to do this, I have to do that. No, it's like you get to travel, you get to see family, you get to do all these amazing things that, not everyone gets to do. So certainly kind of shifting the mindset towards more of one of gratitude and thankfulness for the things that you are able to do. I certainly echo that point and certainly love that point. And you mentioned the phrase grace through the grind, and that really stuck with me because that's something that I feel like is very difficult for people to do, right? Like, I even felt a little bit guilty myself taking 2 days in a row, like weekdays in a row, off in order for travel for the holidays, which, it probably shouldn't be like that, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. So trying to find ways to kind of let yourself kind of enjoy the moment that comes with the holiday season and escape the rat race of life that many of us find ourselves in. It's very easy to get caught up working late nights and early mornings, but sometimes it's nice to kind of take some time away from that, hit the reset button, and refocus in on what's important in life. As you mentioned, family, friends, loved ones, anything like that. You brought up that a lot of people make the resolutions and people set them, but sometimes people fall short of them. And I don't have any statistics pulled up, but I'm pretty sure the majority of people that set a resolution or some kind of goal for the new year, the majority don't keep with them past like a month. So that's certainly concerning. It seems like people want to do things and want to be better and want to change, but it's difficult to do for a lot of people.
You're absolutely correct, right? I don't even want to know what the scary statistics would be as far as percentages of people that, set these goals and resolutions and then ultimately work towards them and end up achieving them. It's probably the numbers are probably pretty slim. But, I think when we talk about some of the mistakes that people make when they do set these resolutions and goals, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is that so many of us rush to set these resolutions without reviewing and reflecting on this year. So we're going ahead, full steam ahead, setting resolutions for 2024. But what the heck happened in 2023? So I think, unfortunately, instantaneous time travel has not been invented yet. You don't just end up at your dream destination, right? So how are we supposed to know where to go in 2024 if you don't know where you're coming from in 2023, right? So I think it's important to audit your actions, your behaviors, and your habits from this year so that you can properly align your actions going into the new year, right? And I think for a lot of people, it can be overwhelming to figure out what the heck even happened over the past 12 months. So for me, one strategy that I've been using as I've started to kind of reflect and review on this year, not done with that process yet, but I'm going through my camera roll right now. So you can maybe go through your camera roll. Maybe it's your Snapchat memories, your Instagram highlights, whatever you need to use as a way to kind of recollect on the important things, right? So going back and jotting down what was happening, the important things in each month from January all the way up to December, right? And kind of once you pinpoint some of the important experiences, the things that were happening, think about like what went well, like highlighting your wins, your accomplishments, experiences, relationships, people that you've met, the trips that you've been on. Where did you grow? Where did you get uncomfortable? How did you get uncomfortable? Did you struggle? What did you learn about yourself? What did you let go of? What should you have let go of, right? So I think it's really important to sit down and take time to reflect and review on your wins, your pain points, and areas of growth before setting those resolutions. So important to review and reflect on this year before we set our goals going into the new year, I think is kind of the first mistake that people do make as far as the new year resolution train goes.
And that's super easy for people to do, and people just naturally do that all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I looked back at my camera roll each day. I've taken pictures. I mean, people are big on the Snapchat and Instagram train. It's pretty easy to just go back and scroll through everything that you've been doing since, January of 2023.
Yeah, no, that is a super easy thing to do. And it's something that I found myself doing a lot more lately unintentionally because I filled my phone storage.
Yeah,
So I
me
have to keep
too.
kind of going through and like clear stuff out. And it's like, oh yeah, I did that. Or oh yeah, I forgot about that. So it's super easy to do. I think the more difficult part of it is to actually sit down with your thoughts and sort through them. I think it's easy to scroll through and remember things, but it's a little bit more difficult to kind of analytically think about, what you were doing, why you were doing it, how you felt when you were doing it. Did it align with what you wanted for the year? Because, I look back and I didn't even have the best direction course set for 2023 myself, right? I was just like, yep, we're going to do this and we're just going to go and we're going to figure it out as we go. We didn't have certain goals or anything like that set. We were just going to push the rock as far as we could and see where we ended up. So I certainly think that the kind of deeper analytic piece is something that can be a little bit more difficult for people to do. But I think that one of the key things there, and I don't want to steal your thunder because you literally just posted about this the other day, and that's what made me think of it, is stillness and kind of being separate and away from all the noise and crowd and just daily hustle and bustle of life is like the key to actually getting deep and exploring your thoughts, for lack of a better way to put it. And, as we mentioned, the holidays are kind of a time that provides a lot of opportunity to do that. You're probably not looking, or hopefully not looking at your phone as much when you're around family and friends and that sort of thing. So maybe now is the time that you can fill your life with gratitude and all these positive things and create a better mindset to kind of reflect back at how the year looked.
No, absolutely. I think you said it well. It's really about kind of learning how to sit with yourself and, being able to reflect and review on what went on, whether, it's journaling, it's affirmations, it's gratitude. I think that's a really important part of developing that relationship with yourself first and kind of, developing this inner calm energy and a sense of being really comfortable with and secure with who you are. That's going to allow you to show up and thrive in all these other aspects of your life and dominate all these goals that you have by, even though it is uncomfortable to sit with yourself without a phone and kind of disconnect from the busyness in the outside world, it's absolutely necessary to get to know who you are, what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, and where you want to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the better you know yourself in that sense, the better you're able to set out towards whatever you want to accomplish in the new year. And while we're kind of speaking in the health and fitness lens, there's a lot of other goals that people set that don't relate exclusively to health and fitness that approach would carry over well to.
No, absolutely. Yeah. We're more than just our health and fitness goals. There's so many different parts of ourself that make up and contribute to our identity as far as our interests, our passions, what makes our eyes light up. So yeah, it goes deeper than health and fitness, but that's usually the typical, when people think about resolutions, really the health and fitness ones come to mind. Typical ones I think of are, I want to lose X number of pounds. I want to lose fat in X area, my stomach area. I want to build muscle. I want to go to the gym consistently. Or here's one of my favorite. I say that very sarcastically. I want to get into a routine. What the heck does that even mean, right? That's just so vague. But yeah, we tend to think about the health and fitness resolutions, but it definitely goes deeper because there's more to life than performance goals in the gym and aesthetic results that we see in the mirror for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely more to life. So how can people go about creating goals for the new year that kind of captivate that a little bit better? Something more than just, well, I'm going to get into a fitness routine. How can we go about kind of setting a more like deep, detailed kind of goal, I guess I'll say?
Yeah. So I think some of the ones I kind of just touched on as far as the health and fitness one with losing weight, wanting to get into routine, go to the gym. These are all outcome based goals. So I think people fall into the trap where they set outcome based goals instead of identity based goals. And this is something that James Clear talks a lot about in his book, Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books. I love all the habit books. That's one of my favorites. Atomic Habits. I love The Slight Edge and the 5 a.m. Club. Those are probably my three favorite habit books. Huge habits girly. But anyways, yeah. So people set outcome-based goals instead of identity-based goals. So there's a difference between what you want to achieve, which would be your goals, and who you want to become along the way, which is your identity. So I think it's important to have goals that are based around trying to live up to who you want to be, right? It's less about achieving and more about becoming. So when you focus on outcomes, external achievements, and results, that's going to leave you vulnerable to, right, these inevitable punches to the gut that life is going to throw your way, like these curveballs in my world of baseball, right? The busy days, the stress, the unfamiliar environments, exhaustion, frustration, grief, like all the things that we experience that most of the time we have no idea that they're even coming. So when you intentionally craft a life with goals that are built around your identity, this allows you to become pretty much unshakable, and you're able to handle these punches that life is, going to throw your way. So if I were to kind of reframe one of those examples that I just talked about, taking it from kind of an outcome based to identity based goals, maybe it's, I want to lose 10 pounds to be more confident in my body. Okay. That would be an outcome based goal. Maybe you shift this to, I identify as someone who takes care of myself. Right. And so when I identify as someone that takes care of themselves, I prioritize my health, my fitness, my nutrition, my recovery, and managing my stress. I love taking care of my body. And I show up every day to work on myself so that I can look and feel my best, to have energy and be comfortable in my body. So when we shift, I want to lose weight, so I want to take care of myself. And these are all the different reasons why. You're kind of building this identity of becoming the person, who does these things, who it's important to me because I value them and I'm committed to, and engaging in certain tasks and actions because those behaviors align with my goals. And, achieving goals will just be an inevitable result of prioritizing who you want to become along the way, instead of, having these outcome goals. We're focused on the actions and who we become along the way to achieving that goal.
I love that. I love that. So it's almost like instead of just focusing on, I'm going to use the metaphor that I always use of a sharp sword. Instead of just focusing on how sharp you can make a sword, you're focusing on the process of sharpening the sword, you actually doing the action. And as you become better at that over and over and over again through repetition, then your outcome is going to be far better than it would be if you had only focused on the outcome alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're sharpening the sword. I kind of think of that as the daily actions that you're taking, right? You're sharpening that sword every day. That's adding up to a really sharp sword. Those daily actions that you're taking each day are also stacking up, and they matter because they're shaping your identity, right? And when you start taking those actions consistently, it becomes ingrained into not just what you do, but it becomes who you are.
Yeah, definitely. And I like, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of people fall off the train, so to speak, when it comes to resolution goals and things that they want to accomplish in 2024. And I think if you are too hyper focused on the outcome, once you hit that outcome, you're like, okay, I did it. Now what? Right? So if my goal is to lose 10 pounds, some people can do that in a month or two. So if you lose 10 pounds in a month or two, now what? You set your goal for the year, you've already accomplished it. Are you going to keep going with it? Or are you going to say, well, I did it. That was more than I did last year, and then just kind of hang it up and give up from there. So I think the better you become at the process of being better, the better your life is going to become, as opposed to just focusing on those X, Y, and Z outcomes, like you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in health and fitness too, the people who you probably look up to in the space is, maybe having a body that, you would love to have, or someone that's really inspiring to you, whether it's their discipline and their drive to get up early. They crush a goal and then they set a new one. Like it doesn't stop, kind of like you said. It's not just about losing the weight. Once it becomes kind of part of who you are and your identity, you become the type of person who just wants to keep training consistently to feel, look, and perform better, whether you have an event coming up or, just for life. Your physical health becomes something that you value, and you're showing up for yourself. No matter if you have a goal, you're just going to set that goal and crush another one. And yeah, I think, it's about, let me crush this goal and let me set another one, because, health and fitness is, it's just something that when I prioritize that in myself, it makes every other system in my life better, for my relationships, my work. Everywhere that I show up in my life is better because I'm putting myself and my health and fitness and filling my own cup first before I go take on the rest of the world.
Definitely, definitely. I like to say you owe it to yourself, but you also owe it to all those around you to become the best version of yourself, right? You know, if your family believes in you and your family has been there for you and supported you through thick and thin for however many years you've been alive, then don't you owe it to those who believed in you when you couldn't even walk, to go out there and try and become the best version of yourself you can be? And maybe that way of thinking is slightly flawed, but I just really think that there is no reason for people to not go out and find a way to become the best version of themselves. And there's certainly different challenges that people might face, certain groups more than others, and I think we have to acknowledge that, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done.
No, absolutely. No, I think that's you hit the nail on the head there. And I think some people do struggle, especially if maybe they weren't brought up or they weren't on a team of, how do I get health and fitness to become something that I value and something that I really prioritize? So I think another part of this whole goal setting is it's tough for people to kind of follow through on these resolutions because they don't get clear on the why behind their goals in the first place. So I think it's important to kind of figure out what is your why, because those times when it's a struggle to show up when it's hard, like when you're tired, when you're busy, or you don't feel like doing what needs to get done to make progress towards achieving your goal, you're going to need kind of this clear driving force, your why or a purpose. So when you're setting these health and fitness goals, right? You want to lose 10 pounds. I want to run a marathon, or even if we're not talking about health and fitness, I want to get a job promotion. I want to build a successful side hustle, right? Why? Like you got to go deeper than that, because the driving force to achieve your goals should be deeper than things like, I want to have more confidence. I want to have more money. I want validation from other people, right? Because none of that shit is personal, powerful, or lasting, right? Why do these things matter to you? How will achieving this goal impact your life? What will you gain from it? How will this goal make you feel? What's it going to take as far as the effort you need to put in? What are you willing to sacrifice, right? So you kind of need to work back from your end goal and get clear on what that desired outcome is and what's driving you to want to work and achieve that goal. So when you have kind of this clear outcome and a why, then you're going to be able to show up when it's hard, when you don't have the fresh start motivation that's going to wear off once, mid-January rolls around, and you're able to strategically align your daily habits and create systems to actually maximize your chances of achieving it when you have a why behind some of these goals that seem extremely surface level in the health and fitness. You're going to be able to show up if you have a why, and you're going to be able to weather the storm of motivation that doesn't really exist if you have kind of a personal, powerful, and lasting purpose behind these goals that you set.
I love that. You need something to fuel the fire. You need something that gets you up out of bed in the morning and just ignites your day for you. And to your point from earlier, if you don't take time to actually get to know yourself and reflect on yourself, I'd imagine that whole process of figuring out why you're doing the things that you do becomes exponentially more difficult, right? So, this is certainly kind of like layers to like a cake or something here. You have to get to know yourself first. You have to know your strengths, your weaknesses, all the different things that we talked about earlier. And then once you've nailed that, then you've got to find that why. You have to find that thing that, as you mentioned, makes you push and strive more towards greatness. And then once you have that thing, then you can really make headway throughout the new year. You mentioned to me a while ago that you do a lot of work journaling, and the whole time you've been talking, I've been kind of thinking in the back of my mind that I feel like journaling would almost make this whole process significantly easier or simpler for people, right? I'm trying to be better myself about working smarter and not harder, but if I had a journal that kind of detailed my thoughts throughout the year, if I outlined my goals or the things I wanted to do, or if I kind of sat down week to week and reflected on why I'm doing what I'm doing that week, feel like that would certainly make this whole process a little bit more smooth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a lot of different strategies and forms people can take when journaling. I know when I first started getting into journaling, probably about a year ago, I started with the gratitude journal. Right? It's an easy 5-minute journal that you do in the morning and you do at night. And, that really works for some people. I love that strategy. I still do that. And then, I think for some people that, especially if you have a lot going on, you do a brain dump, right? You're taking the trash out, just kind of for an analogy, right? You're freely writing what you're thinking and feeling so you can process, make sense of, reflect, and kind of release thoughts and emotions, right? This can help to clear the busy mind and, serve as a deeper dive into other ideas and kind of just allow you to make sense and review what's been going on, what you're going through. But yeah, I think journaling and just in general, just sitting down to review and reflect allows us to kind of get clear on what we want, right? That's the clarity piece. We need clarity before we think about strategy. And I think, what we're talking about here, strategy is kind of setting these resolutions and goals. So the first step should be clarity, getting clear on what you want, like we talked about, what your resolution is, what your goal is. Clarity is also getting clear on the why behind why you're even setting this goal in the first place and why this matters to you. And then the strategy part, right? How are we going to create steps to get there, right? I talked about before someone's resolution they told me this morning is I want to get into a routine. Well, okay, that routine is going to involve some steps. So how are we going to carve out time to work on that goal in some way, right? That's about building those daily habits. And we want to start small, whether it's 20 minutes, and then maybe we work up to an hour on whatever goal that we're working towards. And then, yeah, and that's how we start to think of these little daily wins as far as the strategy that we're doing. And this is racking up consistently as contributions to building towards that desired end outcome goal that we talked about. So journaling is absolutely a great tool to allow us to get clarity on some of these goals and process what is important to us going into this new year. Once we get that clarity and getting everything down on pen and paper and making sense of things, then we can start to build the strategy and create systems and steps to go from there.
Clarity to strategy to system. I like it. And I love the importance of creating the system because that system can be refined over time. It can be changed and molded and adapted. And if you have a system for what you do and it leads to success, you can also replicate that for yourself and others in the future. So I love that point that you just brought up there, Michaela. But no, as you were talking, it made me realize, we've been talking so much about goals for other people and setting them and that sort of thing. How do you go about setting your own goals for the new year? And what kind of things are you looking to accomplish yourself in 2024? Are you taking the time now to reflect and kind of set things up? Do you ever like talk through what you want to do with other people? Or is it very much like you kind of like lone wolf kind of thing? How do you go about lining up for the new year, and what kind of strategies do you implement yourself that lead to what's your overall system for success? I guess I'll say it that way.
Yeah, I think as far as like goals and resolutions, I'm not a big person that really sets resolutions anymore. As I kind of work through my own review and reflection of this year, one thing that I've kind of pinpointed is a word of the year that I'm looking for in 2024. So that's something that some people do instead of setting a resolution. So selecting one single word to be the focus for the year. So for me, for 2024, that word for me is connection. So I'm definitely someone who is outgoing, but I absolutely recharge my own energy, my social battery with alone time, like spending time, we talked about it, with journaling, meditation, reading, going to Trader Joe's by myself, listening to music, like doing stuff by myself. That's how I recharge. But this year, I really want to lean into connection with others, building on current relationships and forming new ones in my personal and professional life. So this year for me is all about fulfilling connections, building up my inner circle, filled with people, comprised of people that I can learn from, people that challenge me to grow and elevate myself, and people I love and care about, and people who love and care about me. So that's one thing that is important to me, that if I were to, take everything, the goals and things that I'm looking for going into this year and wrap it up into one word, it would be connection. And then, kind of just touching on two other areas with health and fitness wise, for me, I think just continuing to do the work and entering the new year, just feeling freaking amazing. That's kind of where I'm at there. I don't really have any big performance or body composition goals at the front of my mind right now, really just wanting to tighten up the variables of my current routine, specifically with sleep and stress management, because I think I talked about this in a post a few days ago. For me personally, when I nail my sleep, as far as consistency and kind of getting in that personal sweet spot of 7 to 8 hours and carving out time to manage stress, like we talked about some of the strategies there with journaling and meditation and finding things outside of work that fill your cup. I feel my best when I do these things, and getting after it in my training and making better nutrition choices becomes a hell of a lot easier when your sleep and your stress are kind of in line. And then, I think about personally and professionally, as far as my professional career in baseball, and then, personally, kind of working on my side hustle, I guess, on the side. There are definitely areas of growth I want to pour time into. And I think it comes down to what we talked about a little bit before with habits and creating systems. It comes down to carving out daily time to work on some of these things. So for me, things that I want to tap into is continuing to learn Spanish, growing my lens in scouting, the area that I work in, and also player development, right? All the mechanic side and getting better at the pitching and the hitting and the strength and conditioning and the way the body moves, stuff like that is just going to help my lens working in the front office. And then just continuing to keep up on my pulse of the baseball industry. It's can be a challenge to keep up everything that's going on in the high school world, the college world, and what's going on with all 30 teams. So just trying to keep up on that is something. So I think those are high level things. The word of the year is big for me with connection, and then health and fitness, tightening things up, and professionally just leaning into areas of growth. And one of my values is continuous learning. So just really committing to growth and learning as I go through my career.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing those, Michaela. And I love the focus on continued growth, consistent growth. It really becomes a little bit every day. And that applies to all of your goals, whether that's the fitness related ones, the professional ones, or even just the overall word of 2024 of connection. You're not going to go out tomorrow and meet 100 people and remember each and every one of them and get to know their life stories. But, if you meet one impactful, meaningful person a week, and at the end of the year, you've got more people blowing up your phone than you know what to do with. And it's a really cool place to end up in. But it's really just that thought of a little bit over and over and over again. And that's something that I know I struggle with myself. I like to go a million miles an hour and I like to just go all in, but that's not the world we live in. And that's not how things like fitness in particular work, right? There's this concept of we put the work in now and we see the results later. It's so difficult to grasp that, but that's just the bread and butter of life, for lack of a better way to put it. If you want these things to succeed, it really becomes small daily actions over and over and over again that create to, meaningful, lasting, impactful things long term.
No, I think you said that extremely well. People fail, especially in the health and fitness space, because they get discouraged, like you said, when they don't see an immediate return on their effort. But it's so important to just zoom out, because everything does compound. Every step, every habit, every action, every day, it all compounds. And regardless of what arena of life you're talking about, to achieve any worthwhile success, you have to embrace the fact that there's no shortcuts, right? It's about sustainability over speed. And the only life hack is relentless consistency. And it's not sexy at all, but it works.
It definitely does work, and I know that you are going to crush everything that you set out to do in 2024 because that is just the person that you are. But for those listening who are kind of on the fence about their own kind of goals and what they've set up to do in the new year, maybe they're a little uneasy about it. Maybe they're like, I don't know if I can do this. What kind of tips or advice would you give them to kind of help make them a little bit more confident in achieving their goals, or how can they stay accountable on the little day-to-day actions, I guess I'll ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think one tip is thinking about how you can make the process easier on yourself, right? So people who that you think are super disciplined or they have an extreme amount of self-control are really just the ones who set themselves up to exercise their willpower as minimally as possible throughout the course of the day, right? So by making good decisions in advance, this is going to make the choices that follow those a hell of a lot easier, right? So you can intentionally set your day up to minimize temptation. So when we're talking about like health and fitness, some tactics here, whether you're focusing on like the nutrition part, right? So we can nail the first meal of the day with nutrient dense quality foods that are going to fill you up at breakfast and that are going to energize you. And that's going to start the trajectory for the rest of the meals that follow that day, right? Another strategy, you can plan, prep, and pack meals ahead of time if you're out of the house. So you don't need to go for what's convenient and appealing at the moment. Another strategy, if we prioritize a good night's sleep, like I talked about before, right? You're setting your gym outfit out before you go to bed at night. You have a structured workout to follow, and that's making it easier to get your ass to the gym in the morning, right? So making things easier, right? You're not a victim of your environment. You could blame it on the fact that we live in a food environment where it's easy to make poor nutrition choices because of easy, convenient access to highly palatable, calorie dense garbage. But I think that's bullshit. You hold all the power. So seek to make things easier on your future tomorrow self is one tip that I try to frame a lot of the things I do. Hey, what can I do today to ease the load of tomorrow me? How can I make things easier for me tomorrow when I'm tired in the morning and I don't want to get up? So make things easier for you on the back end. So when it's time to get up early and go to the gym, like you have all these things that are already set in place for you to be successful.
I love the way you word things, Michaela. That's just great. But to your point, motivation really is a bit of a myth, and willpower just doesn't work. There's a lot of days you might wake up and you're like, nope, not today. But
Yeah.
if you've been in that routine day after day after day, then you just kind of get up and get after it. Even if you don't really feel like it or don't really want to, you still just kind of get up and do it. And I think, in my opinion, anyways, it becomes a bit of a balance, right? Like if you start to, flip back through your journal and you start to realize, wow, I've had those days every single day for the last 4 months. Maybe you're heading in the wrong direction, or maybe something needs to change. Like maybe your system has a fault in it, and that's okay. It's okay to go the wrong direction and redirect. But to the point that we started on, if you're not aware of those things, then you might find yourself 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down that wrong direction. And that creates a really awkward situation for you to find yourself in. So the more aware you become, the better you can kind of direct yourself in the moment and long term steer your ship in the direction that you want to go. So I think there's a lot of power and impact that that can have. And even just to your point about reflection and being still, like taking a minute and thinking about all the things that might occur that would lead you to fail in what you want to do. Kind of like, I guess the technical term would be like a pre-mortem. We do a post-mortem after someone passes away to figure out why. Why don't we do that before for our ideas and goals and things we want to accomplish, right? Set out and say, what would be the thing to actually act like? what would be the thing to absolutely kill this idea or kill this thought or thing that I want to do? And if you're aware of what those things are, then you can actually, watch for them before they destroy your goal.
Yeah, no, I think you said that extremely well. If we're aware of things, we're better to anticipate some of the pain points or maybe some of the obstacles that we might face along the way. And I think you said it right. Motivation is definitely a myth, and it definitely is about discipline. But honestly, Dan, like some people, they still struggle with that. Like they're not wired like that. They're going to say, I still don't get the whole discipline piece. So I think another tip that I would give would be, yes, self-discipline, learning to become independent and being able to support yourself on your health and fitness journey. I think that's all great, but also don't underestimate the power of accountability and community when you're on your goal setting journey, right? Accountability to someone else or developing kind of a shared identity with a group can be really helpful when you're working towards a goal and then sustaining some of these healthy habits in the long run. So whether that looks like hiring a coach and working with them for some structure and accountability, or being involved in a community of like-minded individuals where maybe that desired behavior that you're looking to cement into your life is the norm of this group, right? So whether that's working out with others in the gym, joining an online or in-person group of people with some of the same fitness interests, having an accountability buddy, working with a coach, like I said, right? This concept of community and shared interests, this should make sense to a lot of the people that are listening that have been involved in athletics and have been on a team before, right? So this friendship, community can really allow you to truly embed this new identity that we're talking about and help these healthy behaviors become sustainable long term when you're not just running the race by yourself, but you have other people by your side that have the same interests and passions and are going to be there to hold you accountable, to call you out on your BS, and kind of provide some of that structure where, you might not be disciplined some days, but hey, if you have someone that is going to be accountable, or hey, I know Dan's waking up at 4:30 in the morning, like I better get up and because I want to be great just like him, right? Having people in your life that provide you with a sense of community and accountability can help you on those days when you might not be feeling as disciplined as maybe you normally do.
I love that. And that goes right into your theme for 2024 even more, right? Connection.
Connection.
Connection. I mean, that has been my strategy for the last several months. It's been simple. I open up Instagram. I follow, what is her handle? I follow this amazing girl. Her handle is MicAbs_fit. And every day
Huh.
there's some kind of post in the story. And I read that and I think about it. And every now and then I throw a like on it. And that just kind of keeps me moving forward. So it's really that simple. It's very easy to overcomplicate a lot of these things, and it's very easy to get scared about doing some of these things, but we can certainly make it easy for people. And you do a
Yeah.
great job of that.
Now it becomes a lot more enjoyable when you're not just running the race by yourself and you have other people that are there on the journey with you to inspire you, to motivate you, to hold you accountable, to challenge you, and that you can learn from. So it's really great. And I would encourage anyone listening that find people, whether it's a coach or friends, family members that you can lean on to help make this goal setting and working towards all these goals that you're setting for yourself easier and enjoyable. It makes the process and the grind a lot more manageable when you have other people there with you.
I love that. I love that point, Michaela. Feel like we could probably talk about this until we're blue in the face.
Yeah, true, true. So true.
But do you have any kind of closing thoughts or closing remarks or anything that we might have missed on our discussion today?
I think just something to kind of wrap it up with that I think is kind of been big for me. What are these two things is that when you marry self-belief and consistency, I truly believe that the sky is the limit, right? When your self-belief and your consistency are high, no matter it's health and fitness goals, your career goals, whatever it is that you want to achieve in life. I don't think anything can stop you from achieving what you want when you believe that you're capable and you show up to put in the work, right? The return is in the reps. Once you start to see improvements, you begin to believe in yourself that what you're doing is working, which further increases your self-belief and your desire to consistently show up and elevate yourself. So everyone that's listening, I think that you should be confident because you're capable. You wouldn't have these desires and goals and these resolutions that you're going to set if you weren't capable of achieving them. So just continue to become the type of person who consistently shows up for themselves and others. And when you have that self-belief and consistency, the sky is truly the limit, and you can achieve any goal, resolution, anything that you put your mind to in health and fitness, your life, career, relationships, and beyond. So I think that's big. Become the type of person who's consistent and become the type of person who believes in themselves no matter what.
I love that. That's a great point to end on. And that's something that I see you doing a phenomenal job with, Micaela. And I think that people have a great role model to look up to in you. So where can people find you at? Like, say they want to follow you and keep up with what you're doing, but maybe even learn from you or take some coaching up with you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Dan. This has been a great chat, and I think I've touched on it before. I've been truly lucky to have spent time and really gotten to know Dan over this past year, and definitely kind of going back to my word of the year with connection. Happy that he is in my inner circle. So absolutely grateful for you. But you guys can find me on Instagram at micabs_fit if you want to talk some health and fitness stuff. And to anyone that's, looking to maybe start a career in baseball and is kind of wondering about, working in Major League Baseball or what it takes to do that, or want to learn a little bit more about what I do, you can absolutely email me at micaela.abbatine@pirates.com. So health and fitness, baseball, whatever you want to talk shop about, I'm down for it, and looking forward to hearing from you guys, and super pumped that Dan asked me to be on this podcast. And yeah, here's to crushing 2024. Make sure you review and reflect before you set those resolutions, and keep stacking good days, because good days turn into good weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into a fantastic 2024.
I love that. I feel like I've said that phrase like a million times in this episode. But just love it. Love it. We will link to all of that in the description below too. So if you want to find out more about Micaela, you can just click there. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and I really appreciate all the knowledge and insight you continue to share with us time after time. Thank you, Micaela.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you having me on. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Brawn Body Health and Fitness Podcast. If you liked this episode, please make sure to share it with a friend, subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes, and leave a review. This way we can spread knowledge and motivation and help reach more people. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next time.